So he's closing.
يعمل شيء ثاني.
بالعكس والله عظيم الشغل، عظيم يعني. شكرا جزيلا.
العفو.
الله يخليك يا رب. وين ما بترتاحي خالي، وين ما بترتاحي؟ حلو حلو لأنه ما حلو هيك. I know. I was like, we can't do anything. It's done.
And don't try to spot mistakes at this point. Look.
No.
You see a mistake, they didn't see it.
No, I forgot about the book. I forgot about the poems. I don't remember anything.
Okay.
Yeah. This one's still not working. We might need two, actually.
You need two.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for coming. It's brilliant to see all of you here. Today is Mwaffaq's big day, and I use the word big day because a week ago we were talking over lunch, and Mwaffaq said, "Mom, it feels like we're organizing my wedding." Yeah, so big day, and it's a spiritual journey for him. Having known him for 2 years, I know enough to know it, that this has been a spiritual journey over the last 4 years to give birth to Poetic Entropy. And here we would like to thank Han, who is not here, and also Bernice Shawley for making this possible, because it was she who actually approached him a year back to initiate the conversation about getting the book published today. So Bernice, thank you.
Allah. Hello everyone, and I'm very glad to see all the faces that I always loved to see during this journey in Malaysia. And talking about the journey itself and talking about the book itself, it all started 14 years ago. 14 years ago, that little child was watching a TV show about the Syrian, the most popular, the fabulous poet Nizar Qabbani. And I was watching this series, and I was inside. I felt like there's fire burning inside. I felt like all the energy is inside me. I want to be that guy one day, because since he died in 1998, we didn't have any great poet like him. And I was telling my mother that I'm going to be the new Nizar Qabbani. And she laughed at me. I said, you better study, you better go to continue your studies and all this. I love this line that says that the poetry you're trying to write has already been written by the universe. So I was just trying to explore and find the poetry I want to write.
You had to decide on a title, so tell us about the title.
Yeah. The title is is a poem itself for me. I was asked that, you know, try to get a title from one of the poems, and I said, no, I want this title, and this has a reason for me. I feel that the daily conversations of us has present the language, help the language in a very articulated way. We say hi, that means you have to reply with another hello. I felt like poetry is different. Poetry is when you say something and no one asks you why, but they try to understand and try to see it. But so it doesn't need to make sense, but it makes sense every time you don't try to make it make sense in a way. So this is the entropy of the poetry. Poetry itself is an attempt by us, by everyone, because I believe that every human being is a poet. Everyone on earth is a poet, but it just needs you to find the way to express it, and people express it in different ways.
You said that everyone's a poet and everyone has a different way of expressing it, but as someone who teaches poetry, I keep telling my students, you know, you have to read, because best poems, good poems are the best teachers. Good poems are the best teachers. So, and because you're writing in Arabic, you know, the tradition of poetry in Arabic is so grand and so gold and so rich. From Darwish to Adonis to, I mean, who are you reading?
I believe that Mahmoud Darwish took me to a different level of poetry, opened my eyes to a different dimension of how to use the music of the poetry, your emotions, your thoughts, and your imagination, but in a different way. He's the one who said that, and I like this line very much. He said, "Al-wahyu hazzul maharati idh tashtahid," and that means that the revelation or your inspiration is when the skill gets lucky, but if only it tries. So if you have the skill, you need to try. And when you try and try and try, you get lucky to have the inspiration. There's no such a thing. We don't believe in inspiration or in, this is what we call wahi, which comes from the skies. And because it's always believed that some poets in a way think and believe that, you know what, I don't write the poem writes me. And I hate this. I just hate this. No. We think of the poem, we put it out, we articulate it in a way, but yes, it comes in different ways of paying attention, of noticing things, but still, it's a process.
I'm just curious, after moving, did you feel that your language changed? Was there any sort of transformation in the language of your poetry?
Thank you for the question. I think it's, yes, definitely. My language has really changed. The poems that I wrote in Syria are quite different. I explored the notions that I always took for granted in a different way. The definition of home, the definition of the identity, the definition of poetry itself was totally different to me than now. So I think the language, my language has changed, and even my friends or people who read me in Syria or in the Arab world in total always tell me that sometimes we feel it's translated. So it sounds different, yet it's Arabic, yet the language is very nice, but it sounds contemporary in a way, in a new way. So I think listening and reading English poetry, contemporary poetry, written poetry, or even spoken poetry has opened my eyes to new dimensions of the language in poetry. The book is as I said, it's a dream of 14 years old, and I was that kid, and I cannot believe it. My friends and family are messaging me and saying that it came true and you did it. And I feel like I feel myself as an observer. I'm not the person who did it. It's that child who believed in it the whole way. I was here and I am looking at Mwaffaq doing this. And I didn't realize that it's happening. It was so fast that it's happening, reading here, reading there. And I was like, what's happening? I don't know. I'm just trying to catch up with everything. I'm very glad that my father is here today, actually. He was in Indonesia. He had some work in Indonesia last week, and then I was telling him that, my book is coming out on next Saturday. And then he said, okay, I'm coming to Malaysia before going back to Syria. So my mother is very jealous now, and she's like, go live on Facebook, I want to see it. Take pictures, everything. But I gotta say that I was thinking of dedicating this book to who and what. And then I said, you know what, I dedicate it to that child that decided to become a poet, and I dedicate it to Damascus that is not alive anymore, but in our hearts. And that Damascus, the one that we used to be in and the one that we loved, that is not the same anymore. And then I wanted to dedicate it to the war and wanted to say, we're still okay, and we're fine, and here we are. With all the loss that we faced, with everything happened, we're here and we're continuing. And finally, of course, I want to dedicate this book to KL, because this book is all about KL. It's the only city that could make me write about her, not about Damascus. I wrote about KL, and I stopped writing about Damascus, and I started noticing the beauty of KL in the chaos of KL, in everything in KL, those back alleys that you might read about in this book, the places that we've been to, me and my friends, the people that we met, the family that I made here. KL is a great city that I think poets around the world need to pay attention to. It's a very poetic place if you pay attention. So it can't be more home than today, having the loved ones, friends, my father, and the book here. So I'm very glad, I'm very grateful, and I feel blessed. I'll read Asia, because it all started from Asia, which is Malaysia. And I actually, interestingly, I wrote this poem because of a very beautiful lady on the train with a satin dress, and I was like looking at her, and then I started writing, and then I felt like, no, I'm writing about the city. Okay, let's continue. فستانك الساتان 7 جدائل والمعطيات متيم ومكابرة ويدان من استبرق والنهد شمع أبيض والجيد صلصال دقيق والملامح ماكرة فستانك الساتان 7 دقائق في رحلة بين
To poetry, I shall say, wait, we're only 10 hours late. My work is about to be finished. Then, barefoot, to the moon, we shall elevate.
Lola's winter. At last, they say winter has come, and if it is harsher, only slightly, we shall perish. All of us, and needless will houses be. They, the people of the blessed lands, say the civilization of these lands are great, but their history is an invasion. All we need is a pavement of sanitation to sleep on with the offspring. Some cardboard boxes we also need to bring. on which we shall cast our shadows when we fall. They, my people, say, my people who are only guests, sad guests of lifetime. Have you no limit, O cold? Have you no limit, O sorrow?
Water is the memory of sky. The child points out to the fisherman, water questions me, a land where you no longer live, yet it occupies the inside of your pains. How is it possible to love its memory despite the hurt it will reflect?
Hi everyone. Before I start reading, I want to do a little bit of a Syrian thing. I want to say a few words, and I hope I don't get too emotional. Mwaffaq and I are best friends for almost 3 years now, even though we actually met in Syria many years ago, but we really didn't have the chance to talk and get to know each other. And by mere coincidence, we met here again and we became best friends. But I want to talk today about Mwaffaq, the poet, about his poetry and his passion for poetry. I want to talk about Mwaffaq, the friend, the person who has the ability to talk and be friends with anyone he meets, make them feel comfortable and transfer his poetic energy to them through his words and stories and emotions. The friend who's always inspiring me with his poetry, and he's always pushing me beyond my limits. He's never satisfied with anything I do, so I always keep improving. And despite being an engineer, being known in the Malaysian art scene, Mwaffaq is like many of us, found himself in a place he knew nothing about, among people he never thought he would meet and become friends with. And he had his own struggles and difficult times. And through all these difficult times and hardships, he never stopped writing, he never stopped fighting, and he never stopped being himself, being a true and humble friend. And I know that you never imagined to have this day in Malaysia, to have your first book published in Malaysia, thousands of miles away from home, from your family and friends who you grew up with. But I want to say, from a very selfish point of view, thank you for being here, and thank you for making me being part of your journey and share this special moment of yours. I'm really proud to know you as Mwaffaq the poet and Mwaffaq the friend. So thank you.
Come on. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
You have come so far.
حبيبي حبكم بارك فيكم ان شاء الله يا رب. هو مبين مثل الحرص يعني. حاسس حالي توصيم. عزت شكرا كثير حبيبي قلبي، شكرا كثير على ثانك يو مان، شكرا لانك اجيت. So this is my diaries that no one ever read, but today I open a new page for anyone to write anything, leave me a message. So